I know, the floors are gorgeous.
Look at the old white, the older white.
Oh.
So these are more the modern, but these seem to be the wider heights.
I put the phone right in front of it.
Perfect. Wood, the ramp, wood.
Yeah, but this is.
I think that's perfect.
In the way we were we're pretty
Really nice.
Can we go with hi, good morning?
Hi, good morning. You can do whatever you want.
This?
Yeah,
It works.
perfect.
Wait, a little bit out of the way at least.
I don't know where I'm gonna stand.
Okay.
So
I know.
mainly.
Good morning.
Jamie.
The real narrow bands that
Well,
go
that's
down.
good.
Am I prepared? I don't know.
I feel prepared.
We're gonna find out.
We're gonna. You're gonna do.
Oh.
It's all gonna be.
Yeah.
Okay, good morning.
Yeah.
How was what?
Oh, good,
good, yeah.
So you're a player or you're
I'm a player. I'm a player.
right now.
I showed her what roller derby was yesterday.
Oh.
And I said, what is roller derby?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we'll have to compete with each other. How fast each one go to the deadline or?
Yeah, it's not how fast, but we have like one person on each team that's trying to score
You know,
points.
as Chris knows, I
So
was
my
hungry
job is
whole
to help
life
that person
until I moved here and then.
by knocking over the other.
Yeah. Now I'm the opposite.
Yeah.
Video.
That's what we do. Yep,
16
it's fun.
now and-
We're always looking for new skaters if you're ever
That's
interested.
so.
Oh, no, I can't. Thank you. I cannot stand being. Taken down by people.
It'll give, it's a good,
People
stress
that are
relief,
renting
so,
there.
you know?
By
Each other, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm like, really, you're taking out my, I mean, I'm not judging
Well, hopefully
Yeah.
I'll be back there.
Not for everyone.
professional.
You're like, we need those
baseball
out for like,
for learning.
we're gonna put your chicken. You know that.
Yeah.
Put that here now.
Make yourself comfortable. I don't like spreading out.
Oh, all right. let's-
Hey, good morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Wait, good morning.
Good morning.
Where's the, oh, there's the camera.
Yep.
Nice job, you guys.
Yeah, the tape I did didn't work yesterday.
Throw it there.
So we got some coffee and water back there. We need to have a little bit, help us out. There you go.
Andrew, right?
Yes.
Yes, you work with Brenda and Graham.
Yes.
Yes, I've met you.
Okay.
Jamie.
Jamie, oh, yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, you had coffee on that time, right?
We did, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did the health insurance education.
That's
I
right.
worked with them for a couple of
Dave
years.
talks very highly of you.
Oh, I hope so.
You know what?
That was your first time meeting you.
Yeah.
I think I'm creating a,
Yeah, good to see you.
profile.
You didn't have a car walk then?
No.
Put it in the when?
Yes. Yeah, I mean, I already listed what they
Not
do.
too far.
You made it across the street though.
Right.
Extension.
During drop-off in the morning, that could be a little bit touchy there.
Yeah.
Use case, I mean, use case.
So based on what we can, you can add more.
Sure, I mean, sure.
I have one right here actually put together.
Yeah, and I guess like, I don't know, like that's.
Well, I don't know if they
One way
did
to do it,
it.
I feel like
I
what
did
you
copy
were
it out.
doing, or at least talking about.
The
what you're
Google
doing,
document.
you know,
I kind of know what we're doing.
not necessarily like, there will be times when one person will have to engage with them, but like yesterday, like, there were so many cross things, right? So, yeah, I just based on, are you capturing the, like conversations you're having about what they do and kind of the day? Oh, they're based, yeah. Okay, okay. Okay. No, we don't have too much overlap. I think the overlap would be good for right now, though. I mean, think we're all gonna have different perspectives about the same thing. Like, what I hear might be different than what Jamie hears. I haven't even looked at it yet.
Do I have any either?
No.
I mean, it was just like notes from in the meeting. We need to, I was gonna wait until all 4 of these were done and then clean them up into one presentation with all use cases across all 4 impact areas. So we
That would
can
kind of be a good way to recap,
Yeah.
as a way to start off our next meeting, and show the group, the other group, what.
So we have 2 hours for the October meeting. Yeah, we probably spend 25, 30 minutes or whatever, just kind of talking through those use cases across all 4. That's great. Yeah.
Okay. Let me know how I can keep up with you guys. I mean, I guess I'm focusing on right now capturing like what each person is saying. Right now, I'm just going through and holding like the big points, and I'd like to probably spend some hours tomorrow and just summarize like what are the big ideas that come out of this. Like yesterday's, 10 nets, right? The starter kit for the CDS is in an area and like the need for specific regional geography and stuff like that. But
I think that starting to be something to do across all 4.
I agree. Yeah, especially with the CDSs, like being an expert in one, but like not really having to touch on all of them.
Our challenge is, the roles they define as we're doing the website.
Yeah.
So Andrew, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm Michael Hardy.
Right.
Nice to meet you.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. And then first.
We'll probably be talking as this thing goes along, so.
Yes. I'm curious to hear more about what everything is.
Have you seen the site yet, the All Things Literary site as it's set up right now? Perfect. Good. Then you're in store for a treat.
I like treats. Good. Good.
Yeah, I think this is, so this is our 3rd session. We've
Morning.
got 4,
Hi.
groups that we're working with.
Okay.
And it's been new to some people and not others have seen it. Feel before.
Okay.
You're not alone.
Right.
Good.
At least, not everybody has already seen this before, so it'll be kind of new.
Okay, good. Hi, how are you?
Good, how are you? Apparently,
I don't know.
submitted her user today. She was supposed to.
I screenshotted that, I sent it to him, because I was like, I don't know what.
She's going to be in our office, and I was trying to put her as a reference for.
So that has encouraged me to put a little thing at the end that says, hey, here's a little summary of what you submitted. So it's all good. Some learning thing.
So will she still be in?
I'm gonna try. The answer is yes, but I just have to because we gotta put another Q thing and
Maybe if you on the committee, otherwise it would have never gotten.
now when we see stuff in the matchup, there's a lot of that. People just playing with it, trying it out. Sure.
I was like,
Here.
clearly I
So Jamie, do we do anything with the new stuff?
Let me move here and I'll come home too.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
That's what she-
Sure.
Everything's doing really well. Good morning.
Good morning, how are you guys?
Good. Okay, where is it start? I guess it's fine.
Well, we had the video.
The trick here is to do duplicate. You don't do the big.
But otherwise, we can just do these rows and have them introduce themselves
Okay.
once we get started. Yeah.
Well, I am all this will be local, I'm talking data, hoping the spring will be.
So I think that we're gonna get started here pretty soon, but I wanted to let you guys know that we've got some snacks back there in the corner. I think there's some coffee. I think we got some water. There's supposed to be some fruit at some point also. There's some bagels back there, so help yourself to go. If you want to get something before you start here.
I know, that's kind of how we feel too. Appreciate you, making time.
Think we're good? Technology, right? Let's shut the doors. So we'll probably go ahead and get started here. I guess, first of all, welcome to the first meeting of the All Things Missouri Youth and Family Impact Team. I'd like to start out by thanking you guys for coming today or joining us today. We realize that fall is a pretty busy time for everybody, so the fact that you guys were able to carve out a little bit of time to come meet with us today, we really do appreciate that. To kind of like lay out what we're going to go over today, we'll probably do some introductions to begin with. You guys probably all know each other. You probably don't know us as well. So we'll kind of talk about who we are. I have a PowerPoint that will kind of explain the All Things Missouri we've got right now. Jamie has graciously offered to do a demo of the All Things Missouri site that is going right now. We'll probably take a little break after that. You guys can get something to eat, something to drink, and then we'll come back and we'll actually start discussing the data, and then we'll do the next steps after that. All right? So, introductions first. I'll start. My name is Michael Hardy. I work for the Center for Applied Research and Engagement Systems, or CARES, as we call it all the time because it's so much easier to say. I've worked at CARES since probably 2001, I believe. My background is kind of in geography. I came up as a geographic information systems person, as kind of the role of CARES has kind of morphed into different things. I think our roles have all kind of morphed as well. So I do a lot of data work now, kind of on the back end. We acquire data, we do a lot of processing, we serve that out. Yeah, so that's who I am and what I do. Let's go ahead and get started here.
My name is Candace Fisher-McLean, and I'm a housing and environmental design specialist at the University of Missouri Extension. I'm also the national coordinator for the Healthy Homes Partnership, and I've been with the University of Missouri Extension for a little over 10 years.
What was the national coordinator?
Oh, sorry, National Healthy Homes Partnership.
Great.
So I work, if you know Michael Goldschmidt, he and I work together to run that national program.
Jacqueline Benson, I'm an assistant professor in the Department of Human Development and Family Science, housed here in Gentry, and a state specialist in gerontology for HDFS Extension. Been with Extension for 4 years. And my appointment in Extension is 30%.
I'm Andrew Zumwalt. I work over in the Personal Financial Planning Department for Extension. Just do a lot related to taxes and insurance and retirement and investments. I've been with Extension about 12 years.
Kimberly Keller, until about August 1st, I've been the evaluation coordinator for Youth and Family Extension, that's my title. But as of August, I'm also the interim state director for the Family Nutrition Education Program.
Hi everyone, Angela Johnson. I work at CARES. I kind of share a role with Michael Hardy in doing GIS project and mapping and data analysis. In terms of the All Things Missouri project, I'm the lead for the health and safety impact team. So there are several of us here who are leading these different various discussion groups for the board.
Hi, I'm Carrie Colson with Missouri After-School Network, which is housed in the 4-H Center for Development. We work with all after-school programs throughout the state to do partnership development, policy work, and quality initiatives.
Hi, I'm Chris Barnett. I'm the Assistant Director here at CARES. And I'm also the CARES Impact Team Lead for the Agriculture and Environment. Geographer by background and do a variety of projects with CARES.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Chris Fulcher. I serve as the Director of CARES. I've been around since 1992 and was founded along with Chris Barnett here. So we've been here a long time. We thought it would be a short-term gig into real jobs. It's been a great journey. And also really appreciate you all being here. We've already had 2 impact team meetings, both yesterday, you're the first today, the second one this afternoon. Can't stress how important it is, your involvement in this process. For many years, CARES will be building these systems and cranking out data and mapping and all that. What we're doing differently here is taking a step back and saying, what do you need? How do you work? And what data is important? What tools do you use? So we're going to be building this with you. And so this is a very different thing than what we've done in the past, this user experience process led by Melissa and Jane Ting here. So I just wanted to just stress that we really, really appreciate your input.
Hi, I'm Melissa DeBartolomeo, programmer, usability specialist at CARES. As Chris said, this is really exciting for us to actually get into usability intentionally. So that means, in terms of this project, my job is to take feedback on how the site works. Jensen and I are running a number of tests on this site and some of our other assets. So little things like, yeah, I can't figure out how to generate a report. Where's that button? Moving a button. And other things like understanding how you all interact with technology, understanding what you need, and understanding whether we can interface with your current technology products or build something new. That's our job. So hopefully we'll be reaching out to y'all as individuals as well as your teams to better understand that.
I'm Jensen. I'm the alumni, graduated last May. Now I work with Melissa in CARES, helping everyone. We really need to know what you want, what you need to better use the platforms that we have built. So please, yes, tell us what you want in the next maybe 2 months. Melissa and I will intensively contact them.
I'm Brad Anderson. I'm before you Center for Youth Development. I'm a state specialist who focuses on youth leadership and communication.
My name is Sarah Charles. I am a field specialist in human development and science. And I'm housed in Kirkland over in
Jamie Kleinsorge, I'm a project coordinator here at CARES, and I'm also the leader for the business and community team.
Okay, and I think we got a couple people that's joining us on the phone too. Do I need to unmute anything here?
I think they can unmute themselves,
Okay.
hopefully. So Sarah or Lindsay, if you guys want to introduce yourself.
Sure. Can you hear me? This is Sarah.
Yep.
Okay, great. Okay. I'm Sarah Talapik. I'm an assistant teaching faculty with the School of Social Work. I have a joint appointment with Extension, which is relatively recent in the past year, but I've been with the university since 2016. I was on campus for the first few semesters, and then about a year ago, got the partial appointment with Extension, and I'm now based in Southeast Missouri in Cape Girardeau. My areas of focus are in domestic violence, intimate partner violence, trauma, mental health, and economic strengthening.
This is Lindsay Stevenson. I'm a county engagement specialist in nutrition and health in Barton County. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. I've been with Extension for 3 years, and Barton County is in the southwest region.
Well, fantastic. Thank you guys for joining us on the phone today. Okay, so we're going to get into the PowerPoint. the All Things Missouri Impact Team. To start out, what is All Things Missouri? Well, it's a website that is being built to kind of help support the work of faculty, staff, and leaders in the University of Missouri. That's kind of our primary audience of this. We're kind of using a secondary audience to kind of help support the work of legislatures, public officials, local leaders, people kind of the decision makers within the state itself. There are some tools that we've got in here. We've got mapping and reporting tools that we're going to be building out to help facilitate you guys to make more data-driven decisions. And also, we're going to be putting links on here. Maybe there's stuff that you guys currently use, resources that you want to have included on here. We don't want to kind of leave those behind as well. So we're gonna incorporate those into this thing as well.
And if you have questions or comments as we go along, please chime in. We'll be interacting.
Yeah, this is
on this. Michael, can you minimize the little corners there? Yeah.
Works.
And also just to underscore, keep it very informal.
Yeah, absolutely.
And really just write it, or she's continuing to write all of your comments down, et cetera. So this is very helpful, and this is big blue sky thinking here. Is state level data, what doesn't exist, just really open up in terms of, hey, I wish we could do this, or there is some data at state level, let's incorporate that. So, and a new person just joined the meeting here. Brief introduction.
Hi, I'm Beth Tracy Edwards. I work in the
Thank you.
Perfect. All right. So why All Things Missouri? Well, this is kind of a continuity of the MU Extension quantitative needs assessment tool that we've been working on. It is the expanded vision. It is a collection of tools and resources to better understand issues across the state and local communities. The site is actually live right now. You can go to allthingsmissouri.org. It's up and running. It's been up and running since May. And what we're doing is kind of doing a rapid prototype approach, which is why we're all here today. We're all kind of like a small group of us. We're kind of helping to influence the larger user base, right? So we've got some sessions. This is the first of 3. We're going to go have meetings through the kind of the end of November, and then we're going to try to iterate this through 2019. So, why CARES? Well, that's a good question, right? Actually, CARES was selected as a partner on this. We have a really long history working with this type of data, and we actually already house an enormous amount of data right now that kind of helps influence some of the impact areas. We've got, ag data. We got a ton of health data. We got community data, and this is, both public and primary data. We're trying to get a lot more primary data. We got a ton of public data. CARES has a long history working in extension. It's been around for a long time. At the center, I believe it started in 1992, 93? 92. Yeah, so we were housed over in Bass for many years. We actually just recently moved over under the extension umbrella, probably right around May, June, somewhere. So we're still pretty new. We're actually, our office is around this particular meeting room, so we're kind of all housed right here together. We've also already developed a number of tools that you guys maybe have already used. I know probably a lot of you guys have worked on the SnapEd stuff, right? So you're familiar with that. We've also have a lot of expertise working with other sites as well, the ag site. We work on an MU impact portal. We've supported the Show Me Select Heifer project kind of on the ag side for years. So there's a lot of knowledge that we kind of already bring into the table with this.
And Michael, just one additional comment. It's so exciting for CARES to be an extension now, because for many years we've been pushing the technology side of things, collaborative management systems, mapping, and other data visualization tools. But what we never really had is a grounded workforce to really bounce off ideas and make this a reality. Technology is only as good as the people using it. So that's what is really exciting, is we're the blending of both worlds now, and
Okay, so what are impact teams? Well, in a nutshell, it's us, right, in this room. You guys, your names were suggested to us by extension leadership, by regional directors. So really, that's a testament to the work that you guys do. You know, I think that you guys were, you know, are highly regarded, kind of experts in your field. So we welcome to the team. We actually have got 4 different impact teams, as was mentioned before. We have already gone through the health and safety and the business and community meetings yesterday. We still got the ag and environment meeting to do this afternoon. The impact teams were created to help iterate the All Things Missouri platform. So we're looking to share insights about, you know, types of data that we could possibly try to acquire, some of the tools that we can hopefully build out to help you guys, and then the overall usability, which we'll kind of get into a lot more, which is kind of an exciting thing for us to be doing. So we're scheduled to meet 3 times a year. This is the first of the 3 meetings where, if you guys look at your Outlook calendars, I don't know, you may be surprised, but you've already probably seen some other meetings set up for the future. We've got one mid-October, and then the week after Thanksgiving in November. So we'll have that kind of, the meeting point will be wrapped up, but just be aware that we may be kind of leaning on you guys a little bit if we run into any questions that you guys can help us work through, and that would be not only in the original, you know, 3-month window, but perhaps even moving into next year. So you may hear from us from time to time. Certainly be too happy to list for you guys. So, you know, we try to throw a pretty wide net on the type of people that we're bringing into these things. We want to hear from a lot of different groups. You know, so we've got mentioned field faculty and staff. We got faculty staff here, state specialists and regional directors. So that's kind of who makes up these impact teams, right? Okay, so why impact teams? And this is kind of like the meat of our meetings here. So the first one is, you know, we want to make a site that you actually use and that helps you do your work faster, better, and easier. And I think that's kind of the important thing here is, you know, I think that the task that we at CARES have got is to make something that, if we can make your job easier, right, then it'll be something that is of value to you guys. The site will be used, right? If nobody uses it, then the site doesn't have as much value. We want to add value to the work that's being done in the site. And also, the second point here is probably the most important thing to know about us. We are not experts at what you guys do, right? So we're still in the learning process here. So any kind of insight that you can give us, we certainly do appreciate. And that includes like, you know, information about workflow, process, and outputs. And there again, you know, we understand that within All Things Missouri, there are a number of different groups, and we certainly don't want to just hear from one group. Like if we just talk to ag guys, that would probably have no relevance to what you guys work on. So we want to make sure that we hear from all the different groups that are involved here. You know, as part of that, we want to help you guys be innovative. We want you to be able to access the data that you guys need, that you guys work with, to help make some of the decisions you guys do. And, you know, obviously we want to hear ideas, suggestions, criticisms. It's not written on here, but we also love to hear like positive feedback, I think. You know? So if there's something you really like, we would love to hear that as well, right? Because we're trying to make this thing as good as we can. So
we don't want to make this another thing. We want to make it part of the business flow. And because I know that folks are getting pushed to so many different types of resources and sites and reporting requirements and all that. So we just really want to tighten this up to like.
Exactly. All right. So the goal for this particular session, you know, I think that it's important for you guys to kind of get familiar with All Things Missouri, the layout, the tools that's in there, the data, the resources. That's why we're going to do a demo of the actual site here pretty soon. We're going to talk about the ways that All Things Missouri can help you guys do your job. And there again, you know, we're really interested in some of the use cases, and we'll come back from break and talk about how you guys could potentially use this thing, the type of thing that you may be looking for. Actually kind of like help inform us of what we need to be looking for. We have a list of the data that we've preloaded into the Youth and Family Impact portal. And this is kind of like our best guess. So it may not reflect what you guys actually want. It's some of the data that we've already got. So we put some stuff in there to kind of like get the ball rolling. You can certainly look through that, or we'll send that home with you guys. We'll talk about data requirements. Perhaps there's like a gap in the stuff that we've got, stuff that you would be looking for, that type of thing. We'll answer some questions if there's anything at the end of this thing, and then we'll kind of go over we're calling it homework, but it's probably more like work. I don't know if you want to take it home with you, but it'll be some stuff, and it's pretty simple stuff, kind of like just be thinking about basically data tools that you guys can use going forward. All right, so for the second session in October, we'll reconvene back together and we'll talk about that data. Go through the list for the Youth and Family Impact area. You guys can talk about what you've seen that you liked, what you didn't like, what's missing. Once again, we're talking about the gaps in the data. We'll discuss like data that you guys would really like to see us try to grab, and that includes, we'll talk about if it's available or not, if the data's up, if there's updates to it, there's different output formats that we could give you guys, whether maps work better, or reports, or just basic data tables, and then we'll start talking about some of the resources and tools that we can connect back into the All Things Missouri site, like if there's an outside resources you guys use. It kind of makes sense that, it's frustrating to have to go everywhere to try to pull in stuff. If there's a central place you can go and find all that stuff together, I think that's kind of what we're looking for there. And then for the final meeting, it's going to be focused around the usability of the site itself. That's where Melissa and Jen can come in. They're really, I think, looking to get their fingers into this right. We're going to be looking at what we're calling pain points. So there's, perhaps as you go through the site, there's things that don't make sense or things that are difficult to kind of work through. We absolutely need to know that kind of stuff because the idea is to make this pretty accessible to users. Right? We'll talk about perhaps there's things that you use in your daily life that help influence your work, and if there's positives or negatives to that, an example here is the Google Docs. Google Docs are super easy to share, it's positive, but you have to have a Gmail account to actually get it, so maybe that's a negative, that kind of thing. And then we'll identify some areas where training and use of support documents could be the most helpful. I know that in the other meetings, we've gotten some feedback on like some of the video training that we can do. Maybe there's some things that would be nice to kind of like have it spelled out in the site as far as like a training manual for users. Okay, so having said all that,
Can I add one thing?
yes.
So yesterday we had a lot of great feedback about things that we could actually start building, and I think since I think I'll be running the third session, that would be also a good time. I should add these bullet points to the PowerPoint, sorry guys. To sort of wrap up, like what are our next steps? Who are our contact points to say yes? Here's the set of things that we want to be delivered, and this spring we would find these so that you all can review them and make sure that we're on track with what we've promised and what we've collectively come up in terms of if it's new technology or just a subset of what we do that might be helpful to a particular team. So I will add that.
Thank you. So before we get into the demonstration part, are there any comments, any questions so far? We doing well yet?
I have a question. So this will help me as I'm taking my notes. Is everything public, or is it? Are there opportunities to have data that could be incorporated into this that's not public?
Excellent question, and that's a very important component of what we're doing here with you all. So the answer is no, everything will not be publicly available. Our modus operandi with CARES for many years is just throw everything to the wind, make it all public, and just have people play with it. We didn't really have control We also didn't position people in a way to make better meaning of the data, the maps, reports. So part of the process is what data could be publicly available, but also what data that you all decide should be internal. Because what is the value add of extension going to these meetings, whether it's to county commissioners or to different organizations in the region? Being able to save a map or report, have the data that's available to you. So when you're coming to the table, you've got additional information, resources, and tools that would help out that region. So I think that's really an important point, and that gets to something we would like to build out with y'all's input, is something called a field faculty folder for campus faculty as well. But it's basically a space where you can save maps, reports, PowerPoints, documents, a container, so you have access when you log in, and you're able to use that or share some information the way you see fit. Again, I'm getting ahead of myself in terms of the build. Sorry, Mel. But that's an important part. And that, I'm not a process person at all. So just keep that all in your head there in terms of what is publicly available, what do we keep internal. And by the way, what we're doing here with the 4 impact areas, and what we're doing with Missouri, is something that we've done with CARES for many years, is we scale up what we learn in Missouri, what we get right, and then we extend that to the rest of the country. So what we're learning through this process is building a capacity, a set of tools and resources. We all hear the mantra of revenue generation, revenue generation. How do we go about doing that? It's in some people's DNA, it's not in other people's. But the idea is what we do together can be a revenue generating opportunity as our extension works or provides these resources. Any questions? Did I answer your question?
Is this gonna run separate like it has, how it has, or is it gonna run through the Nexus internet?
It's a great question. It will be operating completely separate from Nexus. There's things that belong in Nexus.
Right.
The program home pages, our CARES website, where here's a brochure. But all the things that we're building, the tools, is going to be outside.
So do you have any suggestions or thoughts on, if there should be linkages between, or if you use the Nexus platform or find yourself using it for certain things?
Might be.
Oh.
We will be using the Nexus e-commerce portal for a lot of the things we're going to be building out, and stay tuned for that. You all may have great ideas on a tool or a resource that could be part of a subscription service, and then it goes back to. Wait, I go?
Yeah, I'm all about charging my grandkids.
Okay, so this is Jamie Feinsorgen. He has been doing these things, these demos, last couple of days. So she's probably pretty good at this. I think she's very good at it all the time. So I'll turn it over to her and she can run the thing.
So yeah, thank you guys all for being here. I'm just going to take about 20 minutes here to demo, to do a high-level demo of the All Things Missouri platform, so you guys have an idea of what we have built already, and talk about some places that there's possibility to continue to build out other pieces of either tools or data that could help support your work. So this is the homepage of All Things Missouri. It is currently live. It launched back in May. We haven't done any additional development to this site since we launched it, because we're really trying to be more intentional with these groups before we dive into building any more tools or adding data. But you can visit it and play around after the session today, which I know you guys are all going to do. So allthingsmissouri.org is the URL, and this is the homepage here. So the site's really broken up into 3 main areas that you see here highlighted on the front page. So we have maps, reports, and then tools and resources. That tools and resources section does link to some internal type of tools and external type of tools, and we'll talk a little bit more of that as we go. So as we scroll down the page, you'll see here this first section is really around maps. And if you've worked with CARES or know people who work with CARES, likely They know us for our maps and our map room. So here we have what we're calling the Missouri Map Room. The data that's available within the map room is, most of it is national, but we've preloaded it so it shows just as Missouri for now. You can explore other states. So if you wanted to find a peer county in Idaho or Nevada or something like that, you could do that very easily. But we are trying to kind of target you first off to looking at Missouri and what the data looks like in Missouri. One thing, though, that I want to point out before we get into the map room are these starter maps. So you can see here, we've got a series of different types of starter maps based on the 4 impact areas. And you'll see that taxonomy present throughout the site. We've really tried to categorize all of the content data tools based on those 4 impact areas that Extensions has identified. So you'll see here that we've built out a series of what we call starter maps. And we've done this because we know that while we may be very comfortable with geographic information systems, GIS systems, the average person, the typical extension employee hasn't had a lot of experience, right, using GIS. So we do want to provide you with kind of a starting point, right? We want to add some layers to a map for you so you can click around and explore and start to feel comfortable using the system before we give you a blank slate. So this is one area where we would love to have some additional feedback from you guys around the starter maps that we already have and other types of starter maps that may be helpful, particularly in the youth and family realm. So I'll show you what one of these looks like. So here we're opening, it looks like a youth mental health map. And so this is an example of what our map, the Missouri Map Room, looks like currently. What you can see here are all the layers load, and we are somewhere, right around Kansas City. But you can see over here we could load public schools if we're interested in adding those to the map. We have mental health facilities specifically that focus on youth services. We could add some ACEs information. It looks like we have some additional ACEs information already loaded, as well as homeless children and youth total by school. So this is a starter map again, just really to get you start thinking about what are some of the pieces of data that you could look at, how do they kind of overlay and intersect with one another, and what can I learn from it about my community. So this is, like I said, if you have other ideas or other examples for starter maps, we would love to hear from you around those things. So I'm going to go back, though, and just go back to the normal Missouri Map Room here. And this is really where you start with a blank slate. So in our GIS engine, we have about 20,000 data layers available for you to map. Again, that can be cumbersome, so anything we can do to help people, really direct people to the data layers that might be of most interest to them is, that type of feedback that we're looking for. So again, we have used a very similar taxonomy to organize the data here. So we have all 4 impact areas plus the social determinants data, and that's really focused on some boundaries and demographics and those types of things. So under youth and family, we can open up any of these carrots and see the individual data layers that are available to map here. So we can see things like enrollment in school, population with no high school diploma, whatever it may be. We have educational facilities, youth and family health, things around birth, physical activity, prenatal care. So to add any of these to the map, you would simply just click the checkbox next to the layer that you're interested in and click this Add to Map button. But before I do that, one of the things I want to point out is this little information button. So next to each data set, there is a little eye you can click, and you can get a description of the data and some additional information, which can be helpful if you're wondering, how recent is this? Where did it come from? Or if you wanted to get back to the original source, you could do that very easily by clicking on that link, learning more about the methodology or whatever it is that you're interested in. I'll go ahead and return to the data, and I'm going to just simply add that to the map. So as you can see here, like I mentioned, we're zoomed into Missouri, but we can see this data for the rest of the country too if we wanted to do some comparison. Over here on the right-hand side is the legend, and that's where you can find some additional options. So for example, this is a layer that's available at multiple geographies. So right now we're looking at it at the county level, which can be helpful if you're doing a county-to-county comparison. But we often work at a more local level, right, neighborhood or something like that. So looking at census tracts is always a good place to start. So yesterday somebody told me to go to Dick County, and I can't get it out of my head, so we'll just keep going to Dick County. But you can see here now, we can start to see what the population with no high school diploma looks like in this area. I can quickly add some county labels so we have, again, a better orientation of where we are. And then I can start to explore the map a little more. So I can click this area that seems like it has a higher rate of population with no high school diploma and get some additional information. So I can see the census tract number. I can see exactly what that percentage is. I can also see the total number and then also margin of error. So that just gives you a little bit more information if you want those exact values that are associated with the map here. You also have some of those options over here, again, in the legend, so we could go from percent to total, and you can kind of see how that changes on the map, and it really kind of depends on what it is that you're looking for. So at any time, you can add additional layers to the map as well. So just by clicking this Add Data button up here at the top, I'm going to go ahead and type in the word food desert. So that's another way to search. So I think the first way I showed you was to browse data by topic, which we did by clicking that button there. You can also browse data by source. So if you're interested in looking for something specific to USDA or the Bureau of Labor Statistics, you can search it very easily here in this browse data by source option. I often just type in keywords and hope for the best. We have implemented some predictive text though that helps kind of prompt you what is it that you're looking for, and this is what we have available here. So I will just go ahead and add another layer to the map so you can see what that looks like. And we're going to go ahead and just overlay then food deserts on top of population with no high school diploma. So this is just an example, a quick example of how we use the map room or how it can be used. We do have some additional tools available within the map room, so you can do things like query data. So if you were interested in finding housing, developments with rents that are greater than $300 or something along those lines, you could do that sort of query and get a nice list of that. You can select the data on the map and get a table. It'll export it as an Excel table for you there. There's some measure tools, math tools are nice if you're doing a presentation. We also have this swipe layer available, so if you are looking at two layers that kind of overlay on top of one another, you can, pan over and see that there.
That was a win.
Yeah. And then also walk scores. So anytime you make a map, you can share this out very easily. We have links for email and social media, so you can do that, or you can export it here. So that allows you to export it either as a PNG or as a PDF file to either drop into a proposal, a grant a presentation, whatever it may be that you're doing that would, a map would help you tell a story.
By the way, you're just getting the nickel tour here today.
Yeah.
The quick view of this. As we move forward, one of the things we're going to be designing around maybe a full training session, workstation, faculty and staff on how to use the tools and also some better online resources about how to develop.
Yep. No, you're good. We do have a map health area that kind of walks you through exactly what I just showed you here, just as a quick refresher. We also have a clear map button, which I really like because I tend to make really messy maps and I'm like, oh, okay, now I need to start over. So that's available. Yeah, yeah, go right ahead.
Do you have the ability to print just like Missouri and not see the other states around?
Yeah.
Because if I was doing an application, I only want to show.
Yep. This mask tool is what is really nice. So you're able to select the geography that you want to highlight. So I can select like a series of counties here.
Or the state of Missouri.
Or the state of Missouri, right? And then I can play with the transparency. So I can make all the rest of it go away, or if I wanted to be able to see just a little bit of those surrounding counties, I can do that, right? So yeah, that map tool is available and it's very helpful for that.
And then you should export it to the MSD.
Yep. Yep.
Or to a PowerPoint.
Yeah. All right, so going back to the home page, that's really that first section around maps. The next section we have is around reports here. So you can see that what we've done is we've created 4 separate reports, one for each of the 4 impact areas. And so you'll see here the youth and family report is right here. And I'm just going to give you like a quick, again, a 5-minute tour of how the report works. But one thing to keep in mind is that we reviewed the available indicators that we had to create a report, and we said these are most likely to be useful in a youth and family context. But we're going to pass out some data and share links with you at the end of the meeting to have you review the list that we currently have and say, this really isn't helpful, or this is very helpful, or this is where a gap lies, this is what's missing. So the first thing that you would do to create a report is you'd either select one or more counties. We also have preloaded the extension regions in here for you as well. So if you are serving an entire region, you could select an entire extension region. Otherwise, you can select, like I said, one or more counties. And this is nice, again, if you're doing work in one county or if you cover, for example, 3 counties, right?
So to stop you right there, you know, and we've also been hearing some feedback from the other meetings that, you know, you guys might have your own regions that you would be interested in. I know there's the 3 county regions and stuff like that. This is a very expandable list. You can kind of customize this to the regions that you guys actually use or would need to help you guys work through this.
So I'm going to go ahead and just select 3 counties here, and then we get into our indicator selection. So again, you can see the individual indicators listed here that you can add to your report. You can add an entire data category by clicking the box next to the category itself, or you can select just individual indicators to add to your report. Again, we have these little information buttons so you can get a little bit more information about the indicator before you add it to your report if you're interested in doing that, and a link back to the original source here. So you can see we have some light demographic information. We have educational attainment, educational infrastructure, infant and child health. Open these up. And then some social and economic factors. So again, this is just a subset that we chose, and we're looking to you guys to think about what are some of the other indicators that we could include to expand on this. So we have a couple of report output options. We have a comprehensive report, which we're going to go through, but that's going to give you basically everything that we can make available to you. It's going to show data for each county, so it'll aggregate those things that you've chosen, the geographies that you've chosen, but then it'll also show breakouts for each county, so you can do comparisons. We show data for population groups when available, so things like race, ethnicity, age, and gender when they are available in the data. And then we have the show maps when available, and that's nice to uncheck if you're going to print a report. We also have a quick facts report that's just data tables that you can share out very quickly. We have the option to export to Excel, so if you wanted to take the information and do some additional analysis and upload it into a different system, that makes it a little easier to do. And then we've broken out the source and methodology. If you've ever used any of our old tools, we used to include that as part of each indicator. It made the report super long. So we've broken that out for you here. So I'm going to go ahead and open a report, and you can see here it populates pretty quickly. I'm going to go look at something more interesting than just population here. So we'll look at high school graduation rates.
We'll explain that navigation you just did there.
I'm good there. Yep. No, that's okay. So we do have a hamburger menu here that allows you to jump between these indicators very quickly. So it's going to populate all the indicators that you selected, and then you're able to kind of jump to them very quickly just using that little button at the bottom. So here we have educational attainment, and you're going to see some common components across all the indicators. So we have the indicator name, and then we have a STEM sentence that tells us a little bit about that indicator in context of the geography that you selected. Then we have a data table. So again, as I mentioned, we aggregate. So I chose 3 counties. So that report location is an aggregate of those 3 counties that you see there. Then we have them broken out individually, so you can do, again, like I said, some comparison, or you can say, oh, wow, it looks like Camden County, has a much higher rate or lower rate than the rest of the other counties I've selected. We also have information for the state of Missouri and the rest of the United States for benchmarking purposes. So you can see that all here in the data table. We also have a link back to the original source in case, again, you want more information. And then we've also represented it in a dial here that is also interactive. So if you wanted to see just that report location benchmark to the United States or to just Missouri, you could do that very easily here. Underneath there, you're going to have a map that's available. So here we have this data table showing us at a county level, the information at a county level. But anytime we can show it on a map at a more granular geography, we will do so. So you can see here that this is on-time graduation rate by school district, which is more meaningful when you're looking at it on a map, trying to make inferences and those types of things. So you can view this larger map just by clicking this button. It'll take you into the map room, just where we were, and you can do more exploration in there if you're interested, add data, that sort of thing, move to different areas. So here we're getting into the next indicator, so population with associate's degree or higher, and you're going to see those same major components. We have the STEM sentence here, we've got our data table, a dial, an inset map. Let's see if I can find one that has here we go. So here, population with no high school diploma. As you scroll down, this is one where we have it available by those population groups. So you can see here, this is by gender. We also have by ethnicity alone, by race alone, and it's just showing those same types of data components for each of those. Again, that's going to be helpful and meaningful if you are working with any of those other populations. So something to keep in mind here is that if we were to incorporate some indicators that you guys were interested in, so some data that we don't currently have in our system, this is kind of what you can expect to see, how it will be displayed, right? So anytime we'll make it available in a table, a dial, you can see it on a map, and if there are other data visualizations available, like looking at population breakouts or trends over time, if we have the data, for 5 years or more, we could show a trend over time type of thing. So just a few things to keep in mind there. So I'm going to scroll back to the top of the page here. Just one last note about the report. You can download it as a PDF. Again, there's a quick share link, so you can send it in an email or excitingly share it on social media. You can print it or you can export it again to an Excel file. So that's made available for you there. So that's just a quick overview of the report. So I'm going to go back to the home page then. We do have, like I mentioned, reports for the other impact areas, and there is some overlap in indicators. We do recognize that some things that are in the youth and family report are probably going to be useful in health and safety and business and community. And so if you did want to get an idea of what other indicators are available, you can look at those reports as well. So the last section is around tools and resources. So again, as I mentioned, these are a combination of things that we have built and outside tools and resources. And so this is a section where we imagine you guys might have some things that you've used or that you turn to regularly, tools or data sites that you turn to regularly that we could add here to make sure that other people also know that they're available and they have easy access to them, right? So one of the tools that we've recently built is this community crosswalk tool. And so I just want to show you guys that really quick here. So the point of this tool is really to look at the overlap or the intersection of jurisdictions around the state. So what we can look at here is I'm just going to go ahead and select a Senate district right in the middle of Missouri. And now it's going to show me multiple jurisdictions that are within this Senate district. So by clicking that View Data button, you can see that I have a nice overview of the Senate district itself, who the senator is, and we should update that one. And then we see how many counties are within that Senate district. So here we have about 7 counties that fall within that Senate district. We also have some information, again, to some local elected officials, and then also the MU Extension office. You can see also the area of the county that falls within that Senate district, which is helpful. As we scroll down, we can see that same type of information then for school districts. So it looks like we have about 28 different school districts that fall within that larger Senate district. And then you get some information around, how many kids are enrolled there, what percentage of that school falls within that Senate district. So we imagine these types of things can be very helpful if you're doing any sort of advocacy work, kind of making the case for people to pay attention to your issues and why, you represent this many of my kids or the kids that we serve, and this is why you should, pay attention, that sort of thing. So you can see all the different school district information as we scroll down here, so a lot. Then we see how that Senate district overlaps with House districts, so it overlaps with 8 different House districts, and then congressional districts, and then last but not least, the MU extension regions. So it looks like Senate District 6 is both in West Central and East Central, so you can kind of see those overlaps. So one of the things that we're looking to you all for is to tell us what other types of jurisdictions would be helpful. So for example, when we talked with the health and safety folks yesterday morning, they said, well, being able to see fire districts, right? That would be really cool to see the overlap of those types of things. We talked to business and community yesterday, and they were talking about economic development districts and, you know, public health districts and those types of things. So there might be things that you all work with, or, you know, some districts that would be helpful to see kind of where those overlaps are. Chris, you're good? Okay, good. So this is, we feel like there's a lot of potential in this tool in terms of, you know, providing a little bit more clarity and insight into kind of who players are involved in any specific area, especially if you're thinking about, you know, services or who's serving children in one specific area versus another. So that's the crosswalk tool. We also have some other tools highlighted in this tools and resources section. So we have the impact portal. We have Explore Mo Health, which shows is a project that we did with MFH and the Missouri Hospital Association to show zip code level health rankings. Might be of interest to you guys. We have the SnapEd tool, which we built with Kimberly and Joe to help their work, and then we also have presidential engagement fellows here. So these are just a couple of outside resources that we have links to, but as I mentioned, we feel like there could be you know, a whole plethora of things that we add there. Finally, to build on that quantitative study that we mentioned, the reason that we kind of built this site, we do have some areas here of sort of digital stories that we've put together based on some of the priority issue areas that were identified during that study. So you can see here we have things like access to food, food insecurity, education, and workforce development. So I'll just go ahead and click on this one so you can see here, you know, as I mentioned, it's basically just a digital story. Tells a little bit about Missouri's workforce. We've got some highlighted data here that you can click into and learn more about. This is something that we are not in the business of continuing to do. CARES here, we're better at the data visualizations, less good at the digital storytelling. But this is another area where we could lean on you all as experts to provide us some content. We could help you build out some maps and things that are supportive of the, you know, the types of things that you're writing about or that you're concerned about, and we can publish on the site to share with others. So that's the quick overview, and I'm right on time. So the last thing, yes.
I wanted to, because you saw a number of different tools, mapping, reporting, et cetera. I'd like to bring up that Colorado Food Policy Network because, you know, we want to meet folks where they're at. The challenge with the All Things Missouri is we've got a combination of researchers. They love data. More data, bring it on. Other folks, the less data, the more clear the message, the better. So we have different audiences. We've got to work on how do we provide the appropriate paths for different audiences. So if you could go into this, what you saw before was a much heavier mapping tool. So if you could explain this for a second.
Sure, yeah. So this is what we call a leaflet map. It's a little more lightweight. There's less complexity around adding layers and those types of things. But really what we've done for Colorado here is help them visually represent kind of who's doing what where. So they're Food Policy Network Council for the entire state of Colorado, and they have lots of people kind of working on food policy initiatives. So what we did with them is we helped develop this taxonomy that you see over here on the right side. These are the kinds of different types of programs folks are doing. And then we added these to the map. So you can see here, if I click on this area of the map, it kind of opens up all of the different initiatives that are going on in that area. And I can click into any one of them and get additional information like project name, you know, what best describes this initiative, how do we get in touch with you if we're interested in learning more. And so we see a lot of value in this, just being able to connect folks to, again, kind of who's doing what where, what resources are already out there, who can I connect with that's maybe already, you know, doing a double up food box program and how did they get it started and just kind of rather than reinventing the wheel. So this is another example of something like that.
Thank you, Jamie. And so as we're working together, what do you need? Some folks, and this is a criticism in previous years, by extension with what we do with CARES, is you got a lot of stuff, but it's just so hard to get what I need. And because there's a complex map room, being able to navigate, go through layers and all that. So let's live this out together in terms of what do we lift up, what do we simplify, how do we meet with your workflow and all that. So again, just wanted to offer that other example.
Yeah, so I'll stop and ask if you guys have any questions or if there's anything else that you want to see on the site. Yeah.
I have a question. You mentioned before about the possibility of having like public space and staff level folders. How does that interface with this? Would that be a part of this?
Sure, yes. So what we'll do is we're going to add a username and a login to All Things Missouri. Right now, there's no login. And we don't want to do any build until we hear from all the teams. And then we get together internally and we think through, okay, how do we work with you all on prioritizing, et cetera. So to answer your question, there'll be a login there, and that'll be the place.
My mind is thinking like literally a folder on like Windows Explorer.
No, and
So
we call it a folder,
yeah.
but it's just an English version of a space for an individual person to be able to pull together content, data, maps, reports, et cetera. And also I'm not thinking ahead of process, but how do you share that with others? Or what do you make publicly available to your county commissioners or to other stakeholders?
And just to add, the folders is one idea.
Yeah.
Don't become too fixated on that because with that login, you can do all kinds of things. Like if you're logged in, if you recognize who you are and have different data available to you in the map or maybe different tools available to you in certain areas, or could drop you into what we call a hub or a sub-hub, I guess, of the site that's dedicated around your focus area or working group that you've got once to 6 months. There's a lot of opportunities you could do around that more controlled, focused login approach to the site. But we want to kind of leave out that slate wide open, and the folders is just one example.
It's just one thing, and I think Chris brings up a real good point, is as we start building out tools with you, those will also be available potentially with your username and password. So only internal extension faculty, et cetera, will get access to researchers at the tools, so you can start using that and then provide outputs from the tool or present the tool to different stakeholders. Thanks. Did that help?
Yeah, because what I'm trying to balance is that site, for example, is have a lot more data than what's presented. So there's kind of a balance of, curating a small and digestible amount of data for
Right, I'm also thinking just in some ways the privacy of the data, because we deal with schools and youth, they're a lot more careful.
Yep.
And I think that it would concern one of my funders if certain data were accessible, even by other people on campus. But she would be, I think, thrilled to see some of the potential uses of that data within just my limited team who currently has the data and look in spreadsheets.
Right. So, and we have worked, for example, with the hospital on HIPAA compliance servers, and there's a terrible
Yeah.
approach. So maybe that's a bridge down the road. And but we're dealing more with the broader publicly available data, and then also, although it's publicly available from a different server, we're providing value add in terms of how it can be used and presented.
Right, but we want to capture that idea that that's potential.
Right. Yeah, it might
Right,
be.
Chris? Yes.
So, yeah.
Permission to only certain people being able to.
Yeah, and that's what's nice about the conference. I mean, we know all that. Well, not really, but, yeah. As much as they're fun to give us, and we've worked with a lot of different groups on campus for that purpose, not necessarily in this context or with the conference, but we've worked a lot, I've worked a lot with FERPA and the sensitivities around it and what like the IT groups you would recommend about, where you store your data and where you present it and all that. So that's really exciting to us.
So I think as part of this process, what we do, we want to hear all of your potential
applications you could see for this type of tool. What we will then do is we want to hear those use cases, prioritize them, what fits within the All Things Missouri model, and what might be, a separate project. If there's a very, specific use case where you can see, data tools now being useful, but we need, a complex security arrangement, that might be something outside of All Things Missouri, but something we still, be able to work on. It might be something through Nexus, through a subscription basis there. So there are a lot of different pathways and avenues that we could go with it.
That'd be good for 4-H as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a really important point she's making is All Things Missouri can't be all things to all people.
Right.
It's the branding, so we're going with it, okay? So I think her point is very important. What lives in the domain of what we need to build out overall? The SnapEd project has been a great example of this is a contained, focused effort that has national implications. So other ideas that you have around the table around what could be built out, what lives in this versus what lives outside, we need to be prioritizing.
So we're right here, right a few minutes after the top of the hour, and we planned a break. Just so you know, when we come back from the break, we're going to be talking through, we're going to stop talking at you, and you guys get to talk to us, and we're going to talk through some of those use cases. So the next section of this is for us to really, for you to think about what we've shown you, and think about how could you use this in your workflow, or how could other folks in Extension you feel like use this in their workflow to, again, make their lives easier to do more innovative programming projects, whatever it may be. So we'll take about 10 minutes, so we'll come back here at 11:15, 11.
Yeah,
refreshments. Yep.
Hallway.
So,
Right.
cool.
Right, yeah. Okay.
Brad, you mentioned this would be helpful for 4-H.
Yeah.
In like a data center
We
department?
have all the names of the personnel.
Could I get you?
Sarah, are you going to NEAFCS next week? It's what? Yeah, it's gonna be a crazy, so I'll be in San Antonio next week. Then I come back for a week. And then I go to a housing conference for a week in Georgia. And then we have, my son's gonna be like, who are you? I know. This is just always like a crazy time of the year. No, I was rooming with Denise, and she's not going now. So, I mean, my room is going to be paid for regardless. But if there's somebody that needs, like, if somebody, is short on funds and they need to share a room with someone, I have a room of my own now. I mean, that's not a bad thing. I'm fine. Obviously, it's nice to have a room of my own, but I'm also happy to share it with someone if they need to save costs. Okay. Yeah, I know.
But it doesn't tell us if they're going to any if they go to energy cap, we want to think back. I know, right.
But it's very, very, I'm trying to think about
What day do you get in?
Monday. I'm flying out of St. Louis at, when does my plane leave, like 10? No, I don't know, 10 or 11 or something.
You do work well. Several of us are flying on Sunday.
Are you just taking Uber or something from the airport? Yeah, because I was looking at the stuff and it says, or I was looking at the NEAFCS stuff and it said they suggested that we just take an Uber or Lyft or, but sometimes they have a shuttle that's prearranged, so that's why I was looking at it to see if I needed to sign up for it.
I think,
Happy with it. Thank you.
absolutely. We got about 45 minutes here. We're gonna try to get out as close to noon as possible. So we won't run over, but we don't have to. And like Jamie mentioned, this second part is kind of where you guys get to talk to us, right? So, you know, we're gonna go through some use cases and, you know, based kind of on what you saw and heard this morning, you know, is there ways that you can see the All Things Missouri platform helping you do your job? And kind of as a sub-question to that, you know, what's the scenario in which you could use All Things Missouri to find information? You know, what kind of stuff do you find would be the most helpful to what you guys do? You know, how do you like to share that information to others? You know, and also what it would be the desired outcome of sharing the information. And here we're talking, you know, is it more like along the lines of research, outreach, those kind of things. So to kind of open it up to the group here, kind of what are your thoughts up to this point, I guess?
Not everyone. I can start.
Fantastic.
I was on All Things Missouri a couple of weeks ago because we are planning a grandparents or other relatives raising grandchildren event in Pettis County in Sedalia. And so it's a new event, and I was trying to find some data to use in like a press release, or we were also looking for some sponsors to make the event free for our grandparents. And I couldn't find anything in there of that type. And so that would be something I personally would find useful, but I don't know. But to see how many children are being raised in households where it's not a, you know, that it's a grandparent or an aunt or other relatives. Yeah.
To expand on that, I mean, I'd written a note, really, it's just household family structure. That's just one aspect of that, but also households that have single families, step families. I mean, I'm a gerontologist, so I want to see more that's related to older adults up there. But
this is great. Data needs, then what would you do with that data? You mentioned you needed to see that in some way for like a press release or something?
Yeah, for press releases, just to kind of make people go like, oh, you know, this is a need, or for donors too, or grants, that kind of thing. Because I was looking for some donors and to be able to present that need that there is, and to have some data.
What would you need, like, for the chart or map or table or
just numbers?
The numbers?
Yeah.
So you would take the data, then kind of process it, and then get it out there for consumption.
Right.
I've got to go, kind of build off hers a little bit.
You bet.
So I would love to see some of the related to that with grandparents raising grandchildren. I can go into that and say, well, how many people are getting the tax credits related to that?
Oh,
You know, they're low income, they get the earned income tax credit. Single parent, 3 kids gets an extra $5,000 if he or she makes 20. I mean, that's huge. We can go into like the utilities and say, look, I'll promote this. People will take their tax credit and repay your past due bills and stuff like that. There's a lot of opportunities, I think, to go and take this data and share it.
Well, hey, if you got to go, thank you very much for coming. Here, let me actually get you this handout. This is going to be the cool book.
Oh, I like cool book.
That you all will get later, so don't peek at it. No, it's that's just kind of the data that we've got sitting right now on the All Things Missouri Youth and Family Impact part, and then we'll email you some stuff here too. Thank you very much.
So I have another use case that I talked to Melissa a tiny bit about. Our nutrition educators are restricted to pre-approved sites that they can do their program. Sites that are serving low-income audiences, and we use administrative data to identify those. So SNAP offices, we qualify sites based on census geographies that have a certain, at least 50% of the population is less than 185% poverty. Based on school free reduced lunch data, those kinds of data points. We are currently maintaining that in-house. I think that would be a great set of data to be able to have on here to help our folks be able to identify where they can do programming. And there are other states that do that kind of thing.
Are those standards the same nationally for all the nutritional education outreach? Or
The data sources may differ, but we have the same kind of guiding.
okay. And so that's with the neighborhood characteristics, other types of sites on top of that, like churches or
Things like help, Head Start offices, any agency that is tasked with serving that only one. So like WIC, like public health agencies, federally qualified health centers, childcare sites that are receiving CACFC.
So our after school day, like this, actually, out there too, 21st century program, has to be similar.
One other thing that I have been thinking about, this would be extension-wide, and it may be something that you have, so in Cooper County, we're looking at the possibility of asking for a tax, an extension district tax on the ballot. And so is there, and this may not be a possibility, but is there a map that we could get that shows taxing districts, like if there's a fire board taxing district or different, and then what those rates are and what people, so we can kind of understand people in different parts of the county are already paying to different ambulance districts or whatever. What are they paying? How much are they paying? What's that look like? Kind of how, and so that would be an extension-wide kind of thing. And the other thing, I don't know if this is something you can do either, but I'm going to throw it out there because I thought about it, but when looking at donor possibilities for extension council, is that data that you would have available to show, I don't even know what that would look like, but like income level, I don't know, just, I don't know.
Well, we're certainly not gonna have data on individuals.
Yeah, so that
But
probably.
we could show the distribution of typical household income across the county, is fairly vibrant. Yeah, I don't know if that helps you, how that helps you, or even mailing certain addresses or something, I don't know. There's a couple of things here you mentioned, certainly these are the use cases, these ideas, especially on the tax rate, there may be some information available, but again, the completeness of it, we don't know. We probably have to learn about this ourselves, but in some of these cases like this, we're going to get these use cases in place so that we know kind of maybe what some of the desires are, examples of needs, and even if the tax information isn't completely available, maybe it's available enough to do something, or maybe it's that you down the road of thought to something else that could be done.
Right.
Good to do.
I think that's something that's going to be coming up more often in county. So I think that's my prediction.
For these sorts of purposes?
The taxing. Yeah.
Yeah, in our school, there's a children's services fund that's a type of tax account. Mostly focused on mental health, but some people for after school. Blessing. I wrote it down as an extension.
Okay.
Michael, what about the folks on the phone?
Anybody on the phone? Lindsay, Sarah, or John? Thank you. Do any of you three have any use cases that you'd like to share with us?
This is Sarah, and I would say that the times that I have gone looking for information so far have been related to getting ready to write a grant application. So kind of statistics about a specific problem. Most recently something that came up, and I think this is actually a lack of data in general, I'm not even sure it would be an option, but one of my research projects I'm involved in is about human trafficking, and someone was asking me, one of our field faculty was asking me, you know, this region of Southeast Missouri is asking for a training on this, but I wanted to be able to tell them, you know, sort of how much of a problem it is in your area. And I said, I have no idea where I could even go for that data. And I was thinking, like, I don't know, you know, even the other thing I study is domestic violence. And so I was thinking if I could look up like even counts of like police reports, that might be interesting. Again, I appreciate the comment about, you know, All Things Missouri isn't going to be all things, but those are some data that I've been looking for recently.
Yeah, thank you, that's helpful.
Uh-huh.
Others on the phone?
This is Lindsay. I see myself using it when I work to engage with my council on the needs in the area, and then as I work to find new audiences in my county to interact with, they might share a need that we aren't aware of at the moment, or so I could relay that to you, or I could go back and find what they're looking for and then present it to them again. So I'm looking at using it as a new way of engagement.
Great, thank you.
I have a question, and this might be in health and safety because studying older adults, a lot of the work that I do is health related. So I'm curious to know about access to hospitals and clinics, cancer centers, hospices, Alzheimer's programs, services that older adults would use. And then also you showed us incident child health, like obesity rates and whatnot. I'd want to know if those same for adults. Yeah, indicators related to adults. Older adults.
Yeah, and we do have lots of access information in health and safety, just around like health professional shortage areas. What else do we? Other types of access. We've got the locations of all the assets, the hospitals.
And then Missouri CAN report, we have counts of providers across, you know, I think about all the disciplines. I believe that was imported over into this platform. But yeah, so we've got access to the national provider identification, you know, the NPES or whatever it is. We can do some summaries of counts by, you know, different geographies or the actual locations and contact numbers. So I guess in terms of the different use cases we've heard, like grant applications, needs assessments, presentations to council folks. So the data format or the, you know, how to access that information, we showed you maps, reports, tables, things like that. Are there other, you know, ways of consuming this information that would make it easier to do to use this
Other visuals?
Yeah, or, you know.
People love word clouds.
Okay.
Yeah. I think like when I'm talking to legislators or community organizers, that's another way. It doesn't apply to all data, of course, but there's some that a word cloud might be attractive visual. Sorry, I replied to your question. But there's all kinds, so I didn't see, I remember seeing the dial, but I'm guessing we can make pie charts, bar graphs, and
over time.
Yeah, can we make them? There are, in our current reporting platform, those are kind of pre-loaded in. So the data is available as a table or as a bar chart or a pie chart. The current platform doesn't have the flexibility to say let you toggle between those things. But if that could be a potential, that would be great. So yeah,
I think over time trends is kind of an important thing, and then a lot of the things we do with our after school grants are over time. Yeah, one of the things they tell is like a report over time, like every 5 years as they go to renew, like have any
the 5-year window, is that adequate to look at this stuff then?
In this particular case,
Yeah.
I mean, there's probably other things, but 3 years is kind of there. 3 and 5 are common ones, but I see in education.
It's going to depend a lot on the quality, consistency over
yeah.
time. Don't change your standards. You know,
Availability, I guess, right?
Yeah.
Right. Well, and even, I mean, if you build something out that could show there are 8 years available here, years, right, in particular. But I think over time is a big thing in education.
Well, it's good that some of your indicators are drawing, some of your data sets are only 5-year ranges.
Right. In which case, your overtime is 20 years before time point.
Write down, the health, or adult health, or adult health too. I just, yes, we talked about the health services, but I'd want to know about like Alzheimer's and dementia diagnoses and cancer diagnoses. If that's something that's.
Yeah, there's actually a lot of great data from CMS on health diagnoses and procedures and whatnot for older adults. So that's actually one of the a lot easier to get data on older adults than it is on youth, for example.
I would like to see more, so I know there's probably housing data in there, but because I work with healthy homes issues, it'd be interesting to me to see like prevalence of asthma in different counties, elevated blood lead levels, and because you could tie that back to educational attainment and, you know, overlay those kind of things. Even and this might already be in there, homeowners versus renters, the number, cost of home ownership, cost of renting.
I want to say one thing on data like housing or just really in general, is that a lot of the data you see that's already in there is based on secondary data available from typical federal or state agencies that provide that information. A lot of it's provided over a multi-year period. You have a 5-year average American Community Survey, or something like that, or there's a delay in this and that. We want to make sure that people understand that one of the things we can do with a system like this is allow us to be more up to date on specific pieces of information. So if you have information, maybe it's not statewide, maybe it's about one school district or one city, we provide a way to integrate that information that would help you in your work, then we certainly want to accommodate that type of situation. So there's opportunities to get very local and granular with this information within the data structure and methodologies we have identified here, and we want to make sure that you're aware of that possibility and think about that.
Yeah, and I work with healthy homes issues on a national level, so I want to see the data I don't want to just see the data from Missouri. I want to be able to work with our sub-grant partners across the country.
And that's an important linkage because we have a number of national partners we work with on projects. So the opportunity for scaling, we're working with the National 4-H Council on a RWJF project now. So think about that in terms of the data and the extent of the data. The one thing that came up yesterday that we discussed was about national secondary source data being less available potentially. The Census Bureau, Chris, if you can articulate this better.
Oh, yes. There are potential changes coming to the 2020 census and perhaps beyond, where they're looking at having fewer products released, potentially cutting certain geographies or data elements from it, or perhaps not releasing by certain breakouts like race or age. That's what they
I was going to say, that's not going to be helpful.
Yeah, it's primarily, as I understand, primarily a function of funding.
Yeah, sure, right,
So they're looking for comments right now, and it's still open until tomorrow, right?
If there's only a tool that we had that would tell us we were
The main point of this is, just as Angela's been working with the National Health Indicators Warehouse, CDC is not making some behavioral risk factor surveillance data available now. There's increasing inavailability of data. What's really exciting, again, with extension and not just a statewide workforce, but a national workforce, is what are the opportunities around primary data collection? And I know, Kimberly, we've talked about that from a SNAP-Ed standpoint, but what data can we collect from a local or regional level that starts telling that story? Because increasingly getting increasingly dark, and we're not able to make good decisions without this good data. So I just want to put that on y'all's radar as well in terms of what type of data could we be collecting.
Did we just scare everybody?
This is over time, by the way. This is over a number of years. What we're just starting out now is just getting out the gate, and we're going to iterate this. We're going to learn together. We're going to improve on how we look at the visualizations and learning what you all need. So we're not going to throw all this on immediately. This is just, again, workflow and how we work together.
So I have a question on like the margin of error or someone just 2 days ago at our West Central Regional Faculty and Staff meeting came from campus and gave some data presentation, and he slammed the American Community Survey. And so I noticed like the one report that Jamie pulled up was 100% from that. So I was just, it kind of made me go, oh, should we not be using this? Or what, are some of the different factors from it better than others? Or
we need to talk with Pat, because you don't slam something, you put it in the appropriate context on the appropriate use of it.
Yeah.
Because
It was pretty, he had some other inappropriate things.
Well, the picture matter is American survey. It's an ongoing survey that builds up over time. And one of your challenges you have with most of this data, especially in small population areas, small geographies, rural areas, is that you're going to have these high margins of error. And we do expose some of those margins of error. You saw when Jamie clicked on the map and it displayed all of that. But we could probably be more forthright in displaying it in other ways, Facebook, touch, or by maybe symbolizing things. Hey, this is a good confidence interval here. This is bad.
Okay.
But in general, the American Community Survey is stuff that you're going to get out there. So there's really not a substitute for that information.
Especially at those local small geography levels. There are some annual estimates from the Bureau of Labor Statistics, for example, that are available at a little bit higher accuracy of precision, but they're only available at the county level. And that's not good enough for a lot of what folks want to do. They want to live within local communities.
And a lot of your data, whether or not that number is exactly right, you still see the relative distribution of the information between county, and that's going to be hold true. I would think hold true that you'll have certain areas of the county that show up on one end of the scale, certain areas of the county show up on the other end of the scale, and those are going to pretty accurately reflect what's going on. Whether the numbers, plus or minus more than its value, I don't know, but
Still feel safe to use it.
right. Well, it still conveys some information.
Sure. That was laying heavy on my mind.
That's a very valid concern, and it's something that we could work to better educate the extension staff on, because I think that the public should understand.
Well, here's the thing. I trust you all, and you know the data, and you're looking at it. So I personally put my trust in, if you're putting this on the website, that it's good, that it's usable. And so when he did that, I just kind of was like, oh, I should be questioning what you all have on your website, and maybe I shouldn't always be using this. So I wouldn't have ever questioned that before.
Who was questioning it? Oh, I don't know. No.
Anyway, he works in the Exceed program.
Oh, okay.
He's upstairs.
So
If you talk loud enough, maybe you'll hear you.
And you did bring that up yesterday, and
he was in that meeting.
He was in that meeting, we made a point to bring it up a few times, and Sarah Lowe kind of had an interesting statement, and I captured that somewhere, but just, an asterisk in certain data points, just saying basically alluding to this point might not be as accurate because, it's suppression or not enough information or whatever. Yeah, so it's good to hear that again, though. I think that's something that if people are asking for, like you said, there is an implicit trust in what we're doing. We should be knowing what we're doing, but there's also that framing of data in a particular context for people who aren't necessarily data nerds. and they might not understand, like, this isn't entirely accurate because, yeah.
Well, and, you know, building your comment, you're saying you weren't trusting us on that. And one of the things that we hope to do with this type of process is to be able to allow you to have resources to find out if the public or somebody else in the kitchen comes to you and says that very thing, you should be able to find out through something like All Things Missouri or some resource on here about that in a way that's pertinent to you, pertinent to extension, that lets you feel, first off, more confident in the data, second off, better prepared to handle and explain the situation to the commissioners, whoever is asking that question. So
Yeah, or, you know, someone at your meeting might know something about that already, so we get that we can put that, information out front so that people who are accessing the data, you know, because they're gonna be, so one of our, identified use cases is around community or county cases. So yeah, so a lot of people who might use the platform to get a sense of their community to put some data in a report, and so yeah, they need to know upfront what the accuracy of that data is. They should probably do a better job of explaining that.
I have a couple of after school use cases. So some of these follow along the same lines. Our 21st, both of our grantees, the STAC grantees, funding and 21st Century funding, as part of their application, they have to basically do a needs assessment. So I could see them coming to this site, especially if you tell them this site is available to come to the site. And they would be wanting to look at things like the availability of village childcare in the community. Then let players like single parents, employment, workforce data to make the case for why their community needs these programs. If there's drug use information, that's something that they often talk about in their grant applications and their programs. And then some of the juvenile crime information, if that's available, that would be a helpful layer for them to turn on those applications. I can see the network using it for policy work. We have old legislative district briefs, and it's probably time for us to update those. And so looking at all the different geography cuts on who has and who does not have after-school programs within those districts, and then it can help us to target which legislators are most likely to be our champions, either for needing more after school or for after school work and the effectiveness of after school. I can also see us using it in our quality work to help programs to improve their qualities of their programs, and I think that the food-related data would be really helpful in that area. So after-school meals and after-school snacks, like who has those, and then I'm thinking a lot of the partners in the food work are the food pantries, because they have to have a provider to actually bring in the food in a lot of cases. So I can see that being a level or a layer that they would look at as we talk about quality. Also things like high school graduation rates, which I think is already in there, but if there's additional DESI data on retention, dropouts, on-time promotion between grade levels, math scores, and overall attendance rate.
So you're collecting some data on after-school stuff right now, right?
Right,
Like,
I would
what kind-
probably be the source of data for the after-school part.
Right, so would it include like most of the stuff that you kind of mentioned as far as like the, obviously you've got like,
I could do the
enrollments and
availability.
stuff like that, but.
Right, I have the availability of school age childcare. I'm part of that. There's also early childhood programs that serve school age children, which would be a part of the licensing and subsidy databases. But we have the list of like 1,200 after school programs throughout the state. And kind of some type information, whether they're 21st century grants, school age community grants, they take subsidy payments, things like that. So I have that data. But a lot of the other ones I don't have, but
know, and kind of what I'm hearing, and we've talked about this a little bit, is it sounds like that this group in particular probably has a lot of overlap with the other impact groups. You know, so I would encourage you guys as you go through this stuff to kind of peek into those other groups and see if there's stuff that we've got there that you're like, oh, I know that we've got stuff on juvenile arrests and stuff like that. A lot of stuff, you know, just
Probably.
there's a crime data that we got. You know, I don't know if we're putting that in any of the reports right now, but especially like a lot of the health stuff. I know that we've got that stuff sitting out there in other places. So, you know, look around and see what's there.
Right.
For
Yeah,
sure.
as part of what we'll follow up with through the emails, we're composing one for our team. So we'll send you the data list for the report for youth and family, the data list for the All Things Missouri map room, but we'll also send along our national report list and map data list. So the national list is a larger list of currently available platform indicator, and then the map list would be anything that's in the map can be essentially made into a report indicator, and then, you know, it doesn't stop there. We've got the ability to, you know, scour state resources like that. You know, maybe we're not keeping up to date right now, and food locations, other things from Missouri Department of Health and Human Services. So,
Well, I would also think that those agencies would appreciate having fewer people asking them that.
right. Yeah, you would hope so.
Yeah.
Especially since half their requests probably come from some of these things.
I imagine so.
Right, and then I know that 4-H would have several data use software put into place for them. I've thought of a couple, but they probably shouldn't use them, so.
I have a feeling 4-H is going to be a major lift inside the group. I think I talked to them. I think they've got a ton of data, right? So it's a big presence.
They have some data, but this will be a new way of them looking
And because 4-H is a very big dimension of extension, is that there may be a separate hub area related to what could be going out with 4-H, because the security, the other things that are brought up, it's kind of its own thing. Is that fair? We're new to extension, but we're learning this. And so again, it's the balance between what we're doing through All Things Missouri proper, across extension, communication specialists, et cetera. And then there may be deeper dives as we're working with Kapner and building out very specific tools for them. They're outside of All Things Missouri, but they're linked to it. So at the bottom of the All Things Missouri homepage, there are resources. So there's specific applications that we built out, and that's something to think of as well.
Well, we've got about 10 minutes left, so we might kind of start to wrap this up a little bit. Like I said, we've got some handouts here, and I'll let you guys kind of pass those around. That is a hard copy of the stuff that you would see on the youth and family impact site right now. As Angela mentioned, we're going to probably send you guys out some additional emails about it. Kind of part of the homework that you guys can work on is, you know, be thinking about things that you would like to see included, you know, as we move forward. And as part of that, you know, there's some things to kind of like keep in mind as you get ready for the next meeting where we talk about this stuff. And, you know, that would be, you know, is the data that you would like to be included is actually available out there? Is it publicly available for us to consume? You know, can we get to that data easily? You know, can we download it, or can we hook into it through an API? You know, is the data source reputable? You know, is the trusted source basically? You know, is the data updated on a regular basis? You know, 2010 data is getting a little long in the tooth, you know, so maybe it's not quite as relevant as it would be if there were data updated on a more regular basis. But also, you know, can we get this data at least at county level or smaller? And, you know, it could be that the stuff that you're looking for, you know, maybe it's not yes on all of these things, but we still want to know about it. So just be kind of thinking about that as you kind of get ready guys out probably a reminder about the next meeting, maybe a week away from the October meeting, to kind of like remind you guys that that's coming up. If you guys, you'll probably take this for lunch and just go through the whole list of lunch and figure it all out. If you want to send it back to us early, you're more than welcome to. If you just want to bring it with you to the October meeting, that's fine also. We will try our best to be as accommodating as we can. So I guess having said that, we got it in all caps here. Thank you guys for your time. Seriously, we appreciate you making your way over here today, or listening in on the phone call. So I've also got a bunch of brand new business cards. If you guys would like some of those,
Brand new.
they're fresh.
It's one to hand these out.
I have a whole bunch of them.
Entertaining.
You're more than welcome to take one of those. If you need to get a hold of me, feel free. So once again, thank you very much. And I think that we'll just kind of wrap this thing up. So.
And if you guys have any other ideas along the way, just shoot Michael an email or any one of us, actually. And if there's other folks that you think should be involved or might just want to have a coffee conversation about this, that would be great. Send us their info or put us in touch with them.
And one other thing, so if you have time to poke around on All Things Missouri, there is a feedback button there as well. So if you can send feedback to us, a specific, question about the site or the data,